Hey, Kody, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you making the drive coming up from Midland.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
That's
it's a little bit of a drive. It's been a little hot down there, so I appreciated the opportunity to take some PTO and get up here.
yeah, very cool. I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate you taking your PTO to come on the
Yes,
show.
ma'am.
And it's just kind of like what we've been talking about before. Like since I started following you on TikTok and kind of seeing what you're doing on there,
Mm.
I've always really like I've posted my show, my podcast on TikTok, but I've never really been able to get inside the community because I'm not in the field. I don't have that same connection like you
Mm.
guys do, like all these videos that I've been seeing that you guys post. But yours really caught my eye because you focus so much on helping people getting in the industry.
Yeah, that's really always been my main focus. I never expected TikTok to be a platform that really grew for me. It was kind of a surprise when it first started happening, and I never got into the oilfield content until I saw Motivational Coach Dev's one of his videos, and he started off by saying, "I think the oilfields are one of the best ways to kickstart your life as a young person." And I was like, "Man, that's perfect." I was like, "That's exactly how I kickstarted my life." And so I went and stole like his first sentence, best way to kickstart your life, oil fields. And I started talking, and it got like 400,000 views. And ever since then, I've just been answering questions and trying to help people out because there's really no information out there, especially about a lot of the field work. Like Dev's talked about it, I've talked about it. When I first started, even 8 years ago, you can go on YouTube, there's nothing on there. You can go on TikTok, all of the social media, Google, even Google right now. You can go look what's the average pay for like a rig worker. They're going to say $60,000, and that's just not true. And all the
Mm.
information's just it's kind of behind this wall of you got to know somebody, and I think that's where that comes in at. So my goal on there has always been to try to get as much information out there as possible for people that were in the situation like I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you told me that you went to the oil field right after high school.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that process like?
It was scary. I was 18 years old. I thought I was going to go to the military 2 to 3 months away from graduation, and I ended up blowing out my left knee, and all of that got stripped away from me.
Mm.
So I remember it was like a Wednesday night, 3 a.m. Everybody was asleep at the house, and I was just sitting up at the kitchen table, just having this panic attack of, man, I think I failed my life before it even got started. I
Mm.
don't know where to go. Didn't want to go to college. And my dad worked as a pumper for one of the a pretty large producer, and I called him and I was like, "What do you think I could do? Like, do you think I can go out there and do that?" And he was like, "Absolutely." So I actually convinced 3 of my friends to come with me, and we packed up 2 cars, drove 22 hours from South Georgia all the way to Pecos, Texas.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a bit of a jump, and I think after 2 months, I was the only one out of that crew that was left.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else went back home, and from there, it's just been a climb. I'm 7.5 years into my career, done a whole lot of stuff. My resume is real wide. It's not too deep, but it is pretty wide. I'd like to go and get new experiences wherever I can. And yeah, it's been fun. Jumping into it at 18, it was definitely there was a lot to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, for
even
sure.
now there's a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and and being faced with that, like you had to find something.
yeah,
Like it had to be something, and so it's like you were really brave, but short on options too.
very short on options.
But you had that drive within you, like you wanted to be successful
Mhm.
somehow. Like you knew you could do it. Your dad believed in you. That's awesome. That conviction, and but then having your buddies go with you, but them not all staying
Yeah,
staying the course. I believe that though because not everybody is cut out for the lifestyle.
yeah, it definitely takes a different kind of grit to stick it out.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's done field work for a year, 2 years, they had to have had it because a lot of guys quit, weekend, 3 days in,
Yeah.
before they even get out of safety. They're just like, I need to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
I miss my family, or I have a partner, or something. Or you have your first hard day, and that kicks you in the teeth, and you're like, I could do something else.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't worth it to me.
Yeah.
But when you are short on options,
Yeah.
you learn to live with it and love it at the end of the day.
Once you get past that, because, like for me, looking back when I went to the field, I remember how hard it was just driving to location, the hours, just the mental tax, not even the
Yeah,
work that you're doing. Looking back, it's a lot easier for me, and I can tell how much I've grown because now I can take on a challenge and I can see my way through it.
mm,
Whereas when you're first starting out and you're that green and maybe you don't have a mentor, you don't have a group, you don't have that support system, it's really easy to just not go back.
absolutely.
Because the way it is, it's like you're just not there and
Yeah.
nobody's really looking for you either.
And having the mentor was huge, especially for me, like my dad being a bumper. I never got to work side by side with my dad. I was contracted to the same company that he was for a little bit, so I would get off my night shift and spend like the first few hours of the morning with him, and he'd run me through everything. And then I got into flowback, and there was a guy from Louisiana that like took me under his wing. I was 19 years old, 20 years old, and he would teach me. And then even my current position when I got here, I work with a handful of really, really good operators, like guys you could wake them out of a dead sleep and be like, "This is the issue I'm having," and they know the issue, and they're
Mm.
going to tell you how to fix it. And just working with those guys, because I kind of got thrown out into the fire switching from production side to midstream, what I do now, and I had no idea what some of those vessels were, and no idea how the gas compressors worked. And those guys like took me under their wing in the first 3 months, and after that it was just smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important, especially for young people. And it was one of the issues that I had when I first started, where I was afraid to ask for help. You're afraid to get made fun of. You're afraid to
Oh
go through
yeah.
that hazing process that
Mm-hmm.
all blue collar people go through. And it took me a while to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found some ways around it. Like I'd start bribing guys with breakfast burritos. I'd stay out after my night shift and be like, "Hey, if you got to change filters, let me know. And I'm going to bring breakfast out there. I'm going to try to help out." And in the process, they were teaching me without me having to ask for them to go out of their way to teach me.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. That was a smooth way to get some more insight and
Yeah.
education.
Bribing always works.
For sure, especially with breakfast tacos.
Yes.
That's a winner, especially in West Texas.
Yeah, it's a currency out there.
It really is, and I mean, and you can't go wrong.
No.
So I mean, you show up with breakfast tacos, you're good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, and it's funny that you say that about not knowing what the vessels were, understanding how it all worked. Very similar, like, my experience, it's more wide and broad. Like I
Mm.
tried different things and I would excel with something, but then there wouldn't be any more work, or the company would lay off, or
Mm-hmm.
something would always happen. And you can kind of get forced into a different part of the industry. Somebody and they've got this new job at this other company. It's a different role, but at least you know the person.
Yep.
Like little things like that will kind of lead you around. So I can look at a compressor station now. I can tell you what all the vessels are, what everything does for the most part, and even like down to what kind of valves you're going to be using. But I learned all this in reverse. When I got to the location and I was just supposed to be doing inventory,
Mm-hmm.
just procurement, it ended up, oh, it was such a nightmare of a project. Like they couldn't keep a supervisor, they couldn't keep foremen for each crew, and so it was constant troubleshooting. It was a mess of a project. It made
Yep.
no money. I think it lost quite a bit, but I learned a lot. And then I went into a fab shop that did vessels,
Mm-hmm.
and we even had the plate roller. So these vessels, these tanks that were already, because we were retrofitting a compressor station, so a lot of these tanks were already in service. So these tanks that I had had no idea what they were doing, I was now seeing them be constructed
Inside out.
inside out.
Yeah, I wish I would have had that.
Oh my gosh, because I had already, like, I knew how to use Bluebeam, I knew how to weld map, I knew how to do all of these different things for a station. Again, having learned all of that in reverse also, because there's no roadmap with the oil
There
field.
isn't.
You get your opportunity, you get in, you navigate it, and a lot of times there's detours, there's dead ends, and you are not sure about any of it. But being able to look and say, like, I could draw out a compressor station with the tanks, tell you what they do, and have all of this knowledge, but it would have been more useful to me before.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like that seems like that's the way it goes. So I think that was another reason I found it interesting to see you sharing your knowledge and helping people. That was one of my pillars of the podcast. Like, let me help you get a straight course
Yeah.
going in the industry, because we're rarely given that.
No, like I said, there's no information out there. There's really none, especially when it comes to like the day-to-day operations. half the people that message me, they think the rig is the only work that you
Yeah.
can do.
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, they're just watching TV, they're watching movies, and that's
Mhm.
really the only media we really put out. Like Landman, I think the roustabout crew, workover crew, that's the first time you see that in the media.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just interesting to see the amount of questions and stuff that people have, and the amount of questions that I had getting into the industry. I was holding guys hostage as a warehouse operator. I was a forklift operator, and they'd come in and say, hey, we need a diaphragm valve. And I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and I would be like, okay, they can't leave until I give them that diaphragm valve. So while they're here, I'm going to harass them with questions. And I'd also be like, point to the diaphragm valve because I have no idea what that is. So when I was 18, that's what I did. I'd ask those guys as they came in, and I'd get as much information as I could, and I'd ask them their job titles, their positions, what they did, and how would that diaphragm valve affect the field? Where does that connect to? Point to the other stuff on the shelf that you would put on there. And that's what I did for about a year until I actually got into the field myself. And then I jumped around so much from production to flowback and then into midstream and the gas plant. It was like everywhere I went, I was repeating the whole process.
Mhm.
And I'd be out there with the vessels having no idea what they did. I had no idea what was on the inside of a three-phase separator for a while, no idea how the compressors worked, but I was out there actively working on them.
Right.
And it was a really big issue for me, and I felt like I was thrown out into the fire. And I feel like that's how almost everybody is.
Mhm.
Even guys that you work on the rigs and stuff, and then they get out there to production, they have no idea what's going on.
Mhm.
And that's how everybody starts somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine. You start where you are, but to have no education in the process, like I think it's mismanagement in the industry because we would have a lot less turnover and a lot more skilled workers if we
Absolutely.
had that accountability, like, okay, here is a general understanding, here are different positions, different, and I mean, I kind of categorize it because even with skilled trades, it's like you can look at sales on into business development, operation, that if you don't want to stay working in the field, that there's other options ahead of you that you may have more of a knack for, getting into technology,
Yep.
innovation, things like that. But just to go out there and it's like you're just trying to get that first check and stay working and get to work on time and all of those things, wear your PPE right. uh, Sometimes that's like that's the
It's the
barrier of
bare
entry.
minimum.
It's very bare minimum, and people will linger there. So if you get laid off or there's a downturn, then you just recoil and go back to where you came from, or
Exactly.
you're just you're kind of adrift. And that was kind of like me, like I was kind of getting to the end of things. I'm like, I have all of this knowledge and education, I'm not going back out to the field, mostly because of the companies I'd worked for.
Mm.
They wouldn't have been worth going back to. Actually, they're not even there anymore because
Yeah.
they self-destructed. That
You see that a
happens.
lot.
You see
Yep.
that all the time, the fly-by nights. But you also kind of get in that where it's like, well, you either work for mom and pops or the big corporate companies, trying to find that middle where it's not it's more established than a mom and pop fly by night that doesn't even have all their safety certs. They can't work for the majors. They don't have MSAs, whatever. So they have a hard time staying working.
Yep.
Or you don't really want to do the corporate thing where you're a number and a badge, and that's a totally
Yeah. The
different way
big
of
layoffs
living.
hit those a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like just trying to find that happy medium where you can grow and learn. And so, one thing I've learned is it is just tough. You do have to have grit, and you do
Yeah.
have to get that. You just have to understand it's not you. We all take it personal, but because there is a lot of nepotism. There's the buddy system. Well, that's my nephew. He's an idiot, but he's still going to work here. All the things.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
you see
all
that.
the
I
time.
think you see that a little bit less when it comes to the field work, because at the end of the day, you have to be out there working,
Hmm.
and I think that kind of cancels out a little bit of the nepotism
Oh,
there.
that's very true because a
Yeah.
lot of those people aren't necessarily, jam up workers.
No.
They've got to have something where they've got a truck, they've got a credit card,
Yeah.
they have a title.
They're just cruising. They're collecting a check. But
There's
yeah,
definitely quite a bit of that.
but yeah, the education part you brought up, I think that's really important because, like I said, I felt like I was thrown into the fire. Almost every job I've been to, thrown into the fire. You get your orientation. They set you up with your card, your truck, your laptop. You go through all of your H2S training, your rescue training, all of that stuff, and then you're out there. And a lot of the times, like even in my current position, I was thrown out there, and 3 months in, one of the operators called me, and he was like, "How you doing down there?" And I was operating 2 compressor stations by myself. And I said, dude, I'm holding this together with duct tapes and dreams. I was like, I really have no idea what I'm doing. I was like, I'll go touch something and I'll see it affect something else and I'll try to put the puzzle pieces together. And I was like, I think I have an idea. And he's like, I'll be down there in 15 minutes. And not only him, but another operator showed up and kind of took me under their wing for a couple weeks. And that teaching turned into testing. And they just kind of cut me loose after that. And I was like, dude, it took 3 months for some. Cause I got told I was going to get trained going out there, and that just never happened. Guys get busy or so on, swap positions, and I just kind of got thrown into the fire. And that happens at every single position I've been to.
Me too.
And like I always ask, like, is there any classes or anything? I took my first class for reboiler system, glycol systems, just 2 weeks ago. That was the first class in 7 years. Everything else has been H2S training and so on, or on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's just not a lot of education, and there's not a lot of information. There's not a lot of classes. You're thrown out there, and everything is straight to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to figure it out, and the guys that figure it out, those are the ones that stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you would get significantly less turnover if a little bit of training was invested into on the company side.
Mm-hmm.
But it's money. And you never know if somebody's going to stick around because you may do all the classes, all the money, and then it's 105 degrees and you get kicked in the teeth in the field and you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true too. You're right. But and so with some I'm seeing it more and more, and like that's what I was telling you the other day about LinkedIn. There's it's a melting pot. You're going to see all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn, but one of my favorite things to see are the companies that have their own training centers, and they send their guys to different types of training, or they do on the job training. Just there's more training and education, I think, coming up, but it's still it's a slippery slope because, like you just said, it's like, okay, like, to set up a training facility or a training program, it takes organization, it takes money, and it takes that commitment. And so one thing I learned, like when I look back on companies I worked for, I'm like, they were never committed to anything more than let's just try and keep the wheels on. And it's like there were no extras. It's like even just trying to have like, good quality of camaraderie and teamwork was barely happening. So you're not going to get that extra investment.
Yeah, it's really how long can you hold it together and make as much money as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting operators or something to be able to teach somebody, or pulling an operator away to be able to teach a new guy like myself. How much efficiency are you losing by pulling that operator away from a station?
That's true.
And how much money could it cost, if that operator's out there training me and all of a sudden his station goes down? Mm-hmm. How many thousands of dollars do we lose if we got to send a mechanic out to swap valves or something? That's a lot of money, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, but sometimes you're like, we're also a multi-billion-dollar company, and we can probably get this figured out with a little bit of time, but everybody's just so focused on profit maxing, basically, trying to get as much efficiency as possible. And I think the education does lack because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, another thing that I'd noticed, because I see all kinds of how to get in the oil field videos, and I think they're all useful depending on where you are. Now, there's some people that are never going to get off the couch. They're going to ask you the same question over and over.
Yep.
How do I get out there? If I don't have a driver's license, can I get a job? Like all these crazy questions, right? And I'm like, you're not, don't even bother, right? Like you're not going to make it in the oil field if you're asking that question, because there's a lot more after, if you found your driver's license and your social security card to actually make it. But one thing I loved about your videos right away is how you break down the action steps. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anybody do that. And talking about the types of jobs, what they are, and what's the likelihood that somebody can get that job. And so, kind of going through Indeed and LinkedIn, and I was pretty fascinated by that, because that's something, because me coming from the pipeline, that's all I ever knew. That's what my family did. It was you either pipeline or you're laid off. Like there wasn't ever anything else. And like, maybe there could have been opportunity within the pipeline if you can make it to safety or inspector or something. But with pipeline, there are very few positions, and everybody's, fighting over the same bone, trying to get the best job, and those jobs never last. So that's definitely part of the industry that I think it's hard to stay consistent and to really build your name up if you don't get after it, or if you're not related to someone, or you don't have an in
Yep.
somewhere, because those jobs are very feast and famine.
100%. And like, I see it a lot with the people that message me. Even the guys are like, "Hey, how can I get on a rig?" And I'm like, "Dude, there's 200 in the Permian." And so you are fighting against everybody that wants to be on a rig. And 99% of the population only knows that we have rigs. So they're all applying to it. And, in a week, you've put in your application one time 3 weeks ago, and you are now number 15,740.
Mm.
Why would that company go digging for you if it's an entry level position? They could hire anybody, and they never know who's going to make it. So it's not like hiring you over some dude out of Indiana is going to be any different. Because I've seen guys that are local get bypassed for those jobs, and that would have saved the company money. So they're not digging for people; they're just skimming right off the top. We have 5 applications right here that are recent, and we have a job opening. And you get the people that go in there and they tell me, "Hey, I applied 3 weeks ago. I never got a call back." And I'm like, "How many times did you apply?" "One time." I can't help you there, And I get a lot of those people that'll do that, or they will sit there and ask a question and it's repeated, or I've answered the video and I'm like, a lot of these jobs out here are self-starting. My job, I get up in the morning, nobody checks on me. I go do what I need to do every single day. And if you can't watch the video and then apply that, how are you going to make it out here? Nobody's going to be watching over you.
Right.
And those guys get cut out really quick when you can't wake up in the morning, or you can't go out there and be reliable and accountable and know what you need to do and save your company money and be efficient and make your company money. They're not going to keep you out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to explain to people who haven't been in the industry, because a lot of other blue collar work, you're in a crew. You got guys holding you accountable. You got guys making sure you're there every day. And a lot of our jobs don't have that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're absolutely right. And I do think that some, in some, because for me, trying to imagine some of these individuals that can't make it on their own, it's like doing like the rigs and hitches
Mm-hmm.
and staying in man camps. I feel like that little bit of community can be helpful.
It's the best option.
That
Yeah.
seems like a great place to start, because it's a little bit more like a dorm setup, and you're here for 2 weeks, then you're home for 2 weeks. You have that to look forward to, and so then you're just having to fight the 12 hours, the
bad
conditions, the
Yeah.
bad days, all of that. Like if someone's mean to you, I
Yeah.
mean, because we're assholes on the oil field. I mean, for the most part, like you don't get a lot of people just taking you by the hand and making you
100%.
feel warm and welcome. I think it's gotten better, but I mean, I grew up around, and I've worked around old timers that are like, nobody helped us, we're not helping you, this is
Guys
the
are
way it
rough.
is. And it's like, you are thrown into the fire, and everybody has, it's like, I'm like, oh well, it's because I'm a female, or because this guy is this or that, and it's everybody.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's everybody is going to have it kind of rough somehow, and it's very dog eat dog, and you either make it or you don't. It's survival of the fittest.
100%. And a lot of young guys, they get out here and they get chewed out by one of those old heads and everything. I try to remind people, check your ego at the gate. You could have 10 years of experience or absolutely no experience fresh out of high school. You got to check your ego at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're out there, you're shoulder to shoulder with people that hold your life in their hands, and you're holding their life in your hands. And you're always trying to work together. And it's a melting pot. You definitely have some rougher people out there. I found that once I got away from a lot of the servicing, like roustabouts, rig work, all that stuff, you start to get into people that are a little bit more calm in the production side. Your
I
pumpers, your
believe
midstream,
that. Yeah.
your measurement guys, they're usually a bit more laid back. And,
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
That's so funny, because I can see like the different tiers of people and
Yeah.
their seniority and where they've landed in the industry.
Yeah.
Because you could be turned all the way up, or you can be very chill and you show up and you're doing maintenance and just taking it easy, and that's a little bit more sustainable.
100%. Yeah, like my position, I work with a guy that's 60 years old. He's going to retire in 2 years, and he's just out there kind of hanging out. We're doing the same workload. We show up, we help each other out, and it's a bit different. We have about 10 operators, and if somebody has an issue or something, we all show up, we all help, and it makes it easier on you at the end of the day. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot less of a workload. You're a lot less stressed out. Um, and you get to go home safe too. On top of that, when you have more eyes on something, more hands on something, it's usually better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now that you found this part of the industry, do you kind of feel like this is your home, or are you looking to like grow and explore in the future?
I don't know if somebody ever gave me an opportunity and it was something I was interested in for sure. But I've always planned on retiring a little bit early, so I'm like I could do this and sustain this. Like I said, I work with a guy that's 60, so this is definitely something I could do for the next 10, 20 years if I wanted to, and it's a really good opportunity. I like the guys I work with, and it's a really solid company. So I've been
Oh, that's awesome
yeah just planning on
too.
sticking with it for now.
I would like, I mean, that checks all the boxes,
Mm.
and I mean, if you're set up like that, you have someone that you can learn from that, I mean, truly can pour into you. 2 years away from retirement, he's got a lot of knowledge that
Oh
he
yeah.
can share, and that you can watch. I mean, you can learn a lot just by observing.
100%. Yeah, that's something I always like doing. When we have big issues or something, or we have a shutdown, and I know there's one of those older guys out there, somebody who's a bit more experienced than I am, a bit more knowledgeable. I like to go and just watch it. And some of those guys, it's fascinating to watch them. They'll go out there complete silence. You're just standing behind them, and they're just looking at things, pointing, and they're like, "Okay, there's your issue." And you're like,
Right.
how did you do that?
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
usually once you figure it out and everything's settled, they can go back through and be like, okay, since you had this level here and this pressure, that's going to be this thing. And you're like, oh, okay, I see
Yeah.
it now. And you get puzzle pieces, and that's one of the weird things about our industry, especially in the field, like a pumper or a pipeline technician like myself. Your experience, the years really don't matter. It's how many times did you fix something,
Mm,
because you could be sitting there on location for 10 years, nothing ever happens, you're not going to get any better.
that is very
But as
true.
soon as stuff starts breaking, you get out there and you actually get the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking about that project that I was on where I was just supposed to do procurement. I probably got 10 years of experience in 6 months.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, every day was, I mean, some disaster we were trying to survive and mediate. Retrofitting all of those foreign lines and people with different visions of how things should be done.
Yep.
A job site can go very smoothly or not at all.
100%. And you
And
see it a lot.
oh my gosh. Well, and it's so funny too because I've done the QC side. I mean, nothing can ruin a project faster than a QC dragging up in the middle and not having the job book up to date and MTRs missing and weld mapping out of order. Things are painted.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, it's like there's no going back.
I'm
Like
so
there's
glad I don't have to deal with that kind of
oh my
stuff.
gosh, that is the most stressful thing because there is nothing you can do about it.
Hmm.
And the liability and, like being able to reference anything, it's just, things like that. Once it's welded and put in place, you can still cut it apart, which is awful. That's such a soul crusher to
Hmm.
watch that. But if you paint something and it's not documented correctly, there's just no way of tracing it.
Isn't
Now,
that crazy?
no, on some fittings, and I think in maybe with some pipe, I think pipe is more of just a stamp, but a lot of fittings have the stencil of the heat number,
Hmm.
so you can see it through the paint.
Yep.
So you're saved. With pipe, not so much.
Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, you could always have those issues where you have, you know, 15 different heads of management, and they all have these different plans. They all have
Mm-hmm.
the next greatest, brightest idea that's going to be the face of the company. And then you get out there and stuff just doesn't work that
Mm-hmm.
way. And you've been sitting there arguing about it. And it's like, man, we could have had this done
Yeah.
so long ago.
Right.
And we could have been operating and all this stuff. And I see that a lot. It's really one of the causes of the disconnects between field and management is that you have all of these great ideas up top, and then you have your field operators that are going to be your tools to actually get it done. And they'll go in, hey, we need to do this and this and this. And it's like, okay, now you're pulling your operators away from everything. You know, at what point does the efficiency matter, and you bring in another team or you bring in contractors and so on to get this stuff done. But a lot of the times it comes down to saving money, and
Mm-hmm.
you put it on your operators, and then you lack efficiency, and you have shutdowns and all this stuff on your production side or your midstream side, the actual stations themselves. And you see that a lot. It's a big disconnect between the two fields.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And that's something that I've noticed that with engineers, with upper management, it's different. It doesn't translate. The idea or what gets put on paper is
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily translate to the field for
Yeah.
practical use or implementing, and then they don't communicate. So then you've got
That's
a
big.
lot of field workers upset about the way things are, and then the office just so excited about it, and it's so
Yeah.
great, and it's like I've been on both sides, and I
Yeah.
really see both sides now, and I'm like, it's almost two separate industries.
It really is. And even like I look at my boss and I'm like, dude, he's got 50 meetings a day, and a lot of it is over communication about the same subject, doing 15 different Zoom calls for the same thing, and then he's got to turn to me and relay all that information. And we may be doing work for like the next year, and he's relaying all that to me, and I'm like, okay, when am I going to get to do my rounds today? We have all of these projects,
Right.
and here I am as the operator, get thrown around at all these different things by upper management, and it's just, I think a lot of management has really no idea what goes on in the field. A lot of them haven't even been out in the field, and I see that a lot. Guys will be out there and, oh, we need to do this task and then this task. We'll knock that out today. I'm like, that's a 3-day project,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have any idea. And I wish like some management would be like, hey, let me ride around with you
Mm-hmm.
and just get out there in the field. And it's cool to see management, safety guys, engineers, and you can tell they've been out in the field. They jump out of the truck, they got a wrench in their back pocket, and they're willing to get right in there with you and start working on things. Like my boss and I were knocking out some stuff just yesterday, and it's cool to see those guys that have been out in the field and they understand what's going on, and they can turn to the talking heads up top and be like, all right, relax, we need to knock this stuff out and we're going to get to that, or that's just not feasible in a
Mm-hmm.
day or whatever. And just the time frames on a lot of things are just out of whack because they just have no idea how it gets done.
Yeah. Well, and having that person that can be the go-between,
Hmm.
that knows the field work, knows like is present and active on location, but can also communicate with upper management, and
Yeah,
upper management trusting that individual, that's solid.
it's invaluable. You can't put a price
Totally.
tag on that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I really wish there'd be more management and stuff that were operators and such, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to hire your best operator to be management.
Right, that's
It's
true.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And so I think really just, and I will have people reach out to me that say they watch my show for the education.
Mm.
Even if it's not necessarily something that directly relates to them, but it's just people that have been in the industry for years have never heard about certain things that I talk about or guests that I have on, and I'm like, it's not directly related, but it's all under the same umbrella.
Yep.
And so it's like, what can you take away from that? And so really understanding how everything functions, how everything works together, from employment to operations. It's like really just having an understanding of what we're doing and what you can potentially
Hmm.
do. Like, it creates so much more power because everybody's kind of on the same page.
Absolutely. And like communication comes in big with that. You may have a lot of upper management that'll talk to the foreman, and then the foreman is the only person that contacts your operators. And it's like there can be a lot of stuff that's lost in that communication. And also, like, if management would talk to operators, or there was a way of operators reporting things to upper management and safety and so on, you have a better line of communication there. And people can learn things. And like we had our maintenance people, they came down and they're usually just scheduling stuff. They really have nothing going on at the station. They came in and did a walkthrough of the station and saw what our mechanics go through, saw what the field guys go through. Some of them have never seen a natural gas compressor before, and they're sitting there scheduling all of our maintenance. And it's like, yeah, this is what we get to work on every day, and this is everything that goes into it. And a lot of them are like, oh, these really big machines. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't take 15 minutes to work on these every day.
Right.
Yeah, so it's communication is huge out there. And as an operator, I feel like you should always try to help out the management because they've got so much stuff going on. Those office people, I have no idea how they do it. You couldn't pay me enough money to do it and sit on all those meetings and do all the paperwork. I like working with my hands. I like being out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched like what my boss has to go through because he was an operator and we were close, and then now he's in management, and I'm just like, man, that's something. I can never do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of field guys choose not to take a promotion or avoid that because it's different. It's a different animal.
Yeah, it's completely different. Even just the language that you use to
Oh, yeah.
communicate is completely different.
Totally. Yeah, the emails I get, I'm like, what are we even talking
Yeah.
about? Because I'm so like straight to the point, and you get a corporate email. I mean, the intro is a paragraph.
Yep.
It just, hoping everything finds you well and that, trying to circle back on this issue. And I'm
Yep.
like,
Could have
where
been
are
one
you?
sentence.
I'm like, okay, it's like this, like, really big build up to,
Absolutely.
one question. But it's very much, it, things are done a certain way
Mm.
on the corporate landscape. And so, I mean, I get it, guys that, would want to stay in the field, blue collar. And the thing is, it's like you can build a solid, like you said, you can retire, you can do exactly what you're doing. Same thing with welding, operating,
Absolutely.
electricians. Like, you kind of like that's the course that you stay. And then maybe you find a company where you're ready for that. You like the team, you help the company grow. You evolve into a management role, especially with companies that everybody started in the field.
Hmm.
Those companies are run different.
They absolutely are. Yeah, and you see that even with like gas plants. So a foreman for a gas plant is usually a guy that was operating there or a board operator or something. He understands the plant, and those are the guys you move up into there, and then they're able to lead effectively.
Hmm.
A leader should know the way, show the way, and go the way. If you're not in the trench with the guys that you're ordering to dig the trench, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a really effective way of getting good leaders into management and being able to run your company correctly. And every once in a while, you get it to where somebody just has absolutely no idea what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That just happens
Yeah.
every once in a while. Well, since you've been on TikTok and with the community, I know we've talked a lot about how great it is, like how, a lot of you guys in the field are connected and communicate with each other. But you also mentioned that you've had a substantial success rate as far as people reaching out to you saying that they have gotten jobs in the
Yeah.
field.
I think I'm up to like 40 or 50 different people that have reached out, and there's no telling how many people applied to things and just got busy, never reached back out, or didn't care to, either one.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's like 40 or 50 people. I save the screenshots. They're always engaging with the community. They'll hop on the live streams, or some of them even made videos and been like, hey, I'm out here in the field, go check out these guys, motivational coach Dev, Jorge, Carly. Like we all talk amongst each other. We all have like group chats. We do live streams together. Hawk Dunlap was in one of our live streams, which was insane to me
That's
because we had
awesome.
like 17 people, and then Hawk Dunlap joined, and we were like, this has got to be fake.
Very
Right?
cool.
So we got to talk to a handful of like really big people, and I was like, man, I never understood how TikTok opened those doors for me, because I never once expected it to really do anything. I just wanted to get information out there for the people that were asking about the industry, and then it slowly started growing, and it continued to grow. And I just started this in January, February, and I think we hit 50,000 people just yesterday. And it was like,
Wow.
it's amazing. And a lot of the other guys that I've mentioned, they're doing the same thing. A lot of them are in North Dakota or Oklahoma or offshore or whatever, in different parts of the industry. Like Jorge does flowback. I think Coach Dev is in safety. You have Blue Collar Standard, who's in completions. And all these guys are throwing out information, and even I'm learning stuff because I have my own little niche in this industry doing midstream, and it's cool to watch what those guys do and hear them talk about it and how to get into it and what the entry level jobs are, and get that information out there for people who have no idea. Like, this stuff isn't talked about. I went to high school in South Georgia. Never once did oil fields come up in any career paging, any job postings, and it just wasn't talked about. And so all this information is going out there, and I have so many like 17, 18-year-old guys that are messaging me and been like, I had no idea what I was going to do, but I'm interested in this. How do I go about it? And that's really what a lot of us are posting for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, have you seen any kind of trend, or is there a commonality in some of these jobs that people are going after?
You see a lot in the rigs. I have had a few people go work over rigs, but right as I started posting, we had the slowdown.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the rig jobs are starting to open. Not a lot of stuff is really going on that side. And that's something that I stress on a lot of people, is because they message me, how do I get on that rig? And I'm like, those may be slowed down right now. Maintenance isn't. Servicing isn't. All of this stuff that is running constantly needs to be worked on. You need operators, you need valve technicians, you need roustabouts. And a lot of those guys are getting jobs in those. The mom and pop shops that are going to come out and repair your diaphragm valve, or go out there and repair your thief hatch. And those are the guys that are landing gigs, or shop technicians and so on. Yeah.
Nice. And I love that because it's interesting, like you say, it's like when you're in high school, nobody talked about the oil field. Well, then people that know about the oil field only know about certain parts. So you
Yep.
guys are uncovering all of these hidden gems. Like there is work out there. There's work to be had, but you have to be willing to think outside the box, be willing to take what's there, and to have that mind that like you, like a sponge, it's like you're gonna
Yeah.
figure out how you can get more information and find a good spot where you're not chasing the work, you're not always trying to find it, because there's a distinct difference between surviving in the oil field and thriving in it.
Yeah. You can
And
make a career out of it if you
yeah,
really
just
wanted to, and you got a job that allowed you to, like, I don't have much of a workload with what I do. It's a lot of preventative maintenance, and it's a lot of doing rounds. A lot of walking, a lot of looking at tanks, levels, pressures, temperatures, and so on. And I'll tell people, hey, I work in the oil field. I put in 18 hours yesterday, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, your back must be broken. And I'm like, that's not every job out here.
right.
Not everybody's slinging a sledgehammer for 12 hours, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people have no idea those jobs exist
Right.
because they get on TikTok and they see the guys on the rig.
Yeah.
Yeah, they see guys doing fracking or out there in the roustabout slinging sledgehammers, and stuff's going wrong, and that's what makes it onto TikTok,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it onto your medias, and that's what people see, and then they come into uh, our media and they have a certain view on it because of what they've seen.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's not like, I mean, with what you do, it's like, I mean, one, like you're not going to be recording on location, but even
Mhm.
if you were, I mean, it's not super exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty boring.
It's not, nothing's happening. I mean, you see those guys, and I mean, I don't know where they're at doing all of this, but like, they're on the rigs and they're covered in oil and they're slinging the tongs around, and
Yeah.
it's very alpha male. But I'm like, I don't know where they're dressed like that, or not having their shirts on, or
Yeah, they're in tank
like
tops and slippers, and I'm like, how are you on a rig doing
that's
this?
not in West Texas.
No, it's
Like
not.
I know that's not. I mean, like that is absolutely, like you can't even go on some locations with your shirt tail not tucked in, much less
Yeah.
not wearing one.
Yep. Let
Yeah.
alone like jeans, like some of them you got the jumpers on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I see a lot of those, and I'm just like, I don't know how they get away with that, first
Right.
of all. But usually it's hidden in some pine trees. And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, there
it's
you go.
got to be like, it's like on a
Louisiana.
private
Yeah.
property, something. But it's like people watch that and they just like, get so into it
Yeah.
because it's like that hands-on, like, oil field's so tough. And I mean, like there are parts of oil field where you do. It's like, when you are, fracking, or you're the low man on the totem
Hmm.
pole, like you do get a lot of that grunt work and it can be very hard.
Absolutely. And like I tell people all the time, your entry level job, your first year or 2 years, you're going to be doing some type of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get straight into the easy stuff.
Right.
Like there are contracting companies where they need a body to fill their contract, and you can get into easier work that way. And that's kind of the way I went through it. I went into basically lease operating as my first job outside of my warehouse position, and that was through a contractor. But if you're going to get on company side and make significantly more money than you would as a contractor, you're going to be doing harder work. You're going to be out there with the roustabout crew. You're going to be out there on the rig, and you get a year or two of experience. You start to learn some things, and then you can find something else while you're still employed down here. And because so many people, their first step is blocked because they live in Louisiana, they live in Florida, and they're like, how do I even get out there? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you have to fight these other 50,000 people that want that rig job that has a rotational schedule unless you move down here. And that was
Mhm.
one of the advantages that I had coming in straight from high school, 18. I moved down here, I was local, and that opens up significantly more positions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
my job, I couldn't have my job if I didn't live here
Mhm.
or in Midland.
Right.
So I work a 5 and 2, and it allows me to make a lot more money per year, and I'm home every day. And it's really something that a lot of people don't talk about, because you get on there and you hear oil fields and you're like, oh, these people, they miss home. They're not there for their kids, they're not there for their family. And it's like, well, if they lived here,
Right.
you don't have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I've known a lot of guys, like once they move their family out, it's a totally different life.
Yeah.
And there is, like, I know it's very established, like, the Midland Odessa community, families, great place to raise kids. Like, I mean, you can definitely get into that.
Mhm.
But if what you do is only in hitches and that's what you want to do, then you have to battle that.
Yep. And you will be away from home, even living in Midland. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be out in New Mexico or something, and
It's true.
there ain't no houses out there.
Definitely not. No, you've got it. Midland, Odessa, maybe Stanton might be able to get away with Monahans, but really, depending on where your family's coming from, like you might have to compromise that a bit. Like
Yeah,
you're still going to have kind of a drive to keep your
absolutely.
family happy and
Yeah.
in a good school and things like that.
Yeah, even I think we have some operators in Big Spring and Andrews, and they come to Midland, Odessa to do the work, and that's 40 minutes to an hour or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. But it allows you to be home. It allows you to have a regular home life. You're not missing out on
Right.
things. Like I work with a lot of guys that have children, and they'll come to me, hey, I have a t-ball game, or can you pick up my Christmas or something? And I always do that because I like to make sure that they're home for their family. They've missed enough, and that's how a lot of the guys out here are.
Yeah.
Especially on those hitches. Those you're missing half the year, every
Yeah.
single year for your entire career. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't find a way of getting out of the industry, starting your own thing, or making money outside, that's what you're just going to be stuck doing.
Right.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of guys make that compromise, which,
Yeah.
hats off to them. That's a lot of respect, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and I mean, and if that works for you, it's like you just got to find what you're willing to do, what works for you, works for your family. Know that there's more out there if you want it, but if you're happy and content with what you're doing, then it's just prioritizing
Mhm.
what
And even just what you can get.
and what you can
Yeah,
get.
some of
Absolutely.
these guys, their situation isn't the best, or they've had some things go wrong in their life, and the oil fields is really their last opportunity. Like, you're on location. You could be side by side with a guy that did 10 years in the penitentiary,
Yep.
another guy that did 10 years at Texas Tech, another guy that moved to this country to make something better of himself. And there I am, a Midwestern farm kid,
Mm-hmm.
all trying to make something, happen. And those are the guys you're out there. It's a big melting pot, and some of those people, it is their last opportunity to make a decent living for themselves and
Right.
for their family. And they're out here, putting in the work every day.
Yeah. I love how you frame that, and that's very true.
Yeah.
And I appreciate hearing your story and kind of how you've carved out your place in the industry. That's something I advocate for. It's, someone may tell you their experience in the industry, yours can be totally different.
100%.
So, like, what you're really doing, what you guys are all doing in the oilfield community on TikTok is really just painting the full picture and telling the stories that haven't been told yet and really showing people the way. So,
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. And it's definitely fun to see. We have a really good community of a handful of guys that are really putting out content every single day. And it does paint the full picture in basically a world that didn't have that picture painted at all. You didn't have any way of getting that information out there before. Sites like TikTok, even Instagram. That'd be so hard to find on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing on YouTube almost. So
Mm-hmm.
like TikTok's the one place I found it. And you got a couple guys that are experimenting with YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and trying to get stuff going there too. But as of right now, like there's only like I'd say 10 to 15 people that are putting out that kind of content.
Mm-hmm.
And it's neat to see, and everybody's got a different story. You got guys on there that have families, like Blue Collar Standard, and he's out there doing it. He's got his own thing going on, and he's got a family back home and stuff. And so he talks about his family life a lot. And then I'm on there and I talk about my finances and all this other stuff that goes on in the industry and the midstream side of things and the entry level. And everybody's got their own story. Everybody came from somewhere different, and everybody has different things going on. But that's exactly how it is in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kody. Thank you for coming on the show today and sharing all of this. And I look forward to continuing to watch you grow and help other people get in the industry.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate the invite. It was a blast.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you, everyone, for watching Power of the Permian. We'll see you next time.